Hello everyone, I'm Ray Bagnanuolo. I'm pastor of this church here in Sayville, New York. This is Sayville Congregational United Church of Christ where I serve. I wanted to start out in front of the church today because I don't often talk about where it is I serve because I'm not really doing these little videos as part of my work at the church. But when I mention so often that there are churches where you can find a welcoming, so that, whoever you are, however you see God is making you to be the person you are welcome here. And truthfully, I wouldn't be serving here if that wasn't true. This is one of those churches that paid the price back in the early 90s when they called an openly gay pastor. And let me tell you, all heck broke loose. And at that time, there was a split in the church. And the church had to regroup, probably lost half its members. But there were strong, committed people here. There were people here who refused to let the ignorance that so many other people embrace in terms of how do you welcome somebody who's unfamiliar to you or perhaps different than you. Anyway, this is a place that did it and does it and continues to do it. We've held two, I think it's two, it might be three Transgender Day of Remembrances here to welcome our community. We pay attention to the Trans Visibility Day. We have members in our congregation who are part of the community. But more than that, our doors are open to anyone who's on a spiritual path, looking for the God of their understanding to try and help make some sense of this life and this world that we live in. I mean, that's all any of us really want in so many ways, is to know that we're loved, to know that we're welcomed, accepted, and that there's something more that we can rely upon to understand one another better, and also to, perhaps find some meaning in our own lives that we think has been missing or important to us and we've been closed out from because of the closed-mindedness of some of the folks out there who would prefer that we just go quietly into the night. Well, too bad, out here in the day, out and loud and proud. So I wanted to read something to you because the trans community right now is under a great deal of fire. And I saw this in today's news, and I just want to bring this up as to point out some of the hatred and the stupidity. There's an article in Reuters. Here's what it says. Alabama lawmakers passed a bill on Thursday that would criminalize gender-affirming health care for transgender youth with the threat of 10 years in prison for medical providers. What? The legislation passed 66-28 by the state's House of Representatives on the last day of the legislative session, and it is the latest in a flurry of measures in Republican-led states dealing with transgender youth. Well, we're becoming all too familiar with these Republican-led states and some of this horrible, bigoted, wrong-headed, wicked, in the worst sense of the word, thinking and translation of that thinking into practices that hurt so many people. How could you say, you're called to love one another and then do stuff like this? Give me a break. There is no legislation that the people who are in our community have ever put forward to take something away from people. We've only been working hard to be included, as we know we should be, and as we're trying to help other people to learn. But when you see legislation that starts taking away rights, you know it's wrong, you know it's bigoted, you know it's biased, and you know it's wicked in the worst sense of the word. There's some more here. It says that the American Civil Liberties Union called this the first bill of its kind to make health care for transgender youth a felony and said it would challenge the bill in court if the governor signs it. You can look up all of these things. Just take a look online, do a Google or a search. This isn't a news report, but this is just to say that all of these headlines and the things that people are doing out there, there's a lot of people that are not doing that. I don't know why the news doesn't report more on communities like ours. Not this one in particular, but communities like ours, where we're welcome, where we've done the work. It's not only about us trying to find our place in the world, but when we do that, we help others to find their place in the world. It's got to be passed on. The work we do is really important, and it gets passed on. And by passing it on, we change things. And that's hard. And you don't do that alone, because that's just too hard. And you know what? I don't want to do it alone. I don't have the resources to do it alone. And I want to be with other people because it's about community. And let no one tell us that we are not a part of this community or others like it. So We continue to have to find places where we feel safe, where we are welcome, where we know that we are loved, where we get a chance to figure out what it means to be who we are in a community of which we are already a part, and that our contributions and our participation is so important and so critical that I call it sacred. Let no one mess with sacred. She doesn't like that when you mess with sacred. Anyway, just know you're loved, know you're welcome. You know, take a look at us online if you want, if you're out of the area, and that's fine. We'll help you to find someplace in your area. But if you're inclined to do that, don't give up, okay? I found here and I'm queer to stay. So, all right, folks, thanks for being with me today. Thanks for joining us outside our little church in Sayville, New York on this busy day in the life of our church.